What's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to an all-new Season 3 of the Mindshare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by the Buzz Conference and Kit's Keep in Touch Systems. Make sure you connect with the Buzz Conference by visiting their website, www.thebuzzconference.com, or by following them on Instagram at The Buzz Conference to keep tabs on all the awesome events that they host, including these three upcoming. Number 1, Copywriting for Real Estate on May 14th. Number 2, Buzz Western Canada Connect and Collaborate on May 27th. And number 3, Luxury Connect and Recreation Investment, The Mixer, on June 10th. These events are always loaded with value, so be sure to follow the Buzz Conference to stay in the know. And of course, Kits is always with us. Kits offers a fully loaded cross-channel marketing suite for the real estate industry, including tools to help you manage your business, build mindshare, and drive even more sales. You can learn more on my site, mindshare101.com, by clicking on Marketing. I also want to share that we are working to get to 100 reviews on iTunes, and I want you to be a part of it. If you already have, thank you. If you have not, please take 2 minutes, go to iTunes, rate the show, and leave a review. It really is that easy. And once again, thank you in advance. Today's episode is number 127. As Regional Director of RE/MAX Integra, Ontario, Atlantic Canada, he is responsible for areas of day-to-day operations, including franchise management, membership services, and training and development of franchisees. He leads the progression of broker owners in the Ontario Atlantic region through system policies, best practices, brand awareness, and programs that establish competitive advantages in the marketplace. In 2018, he joined RE/MAX Integra as the Director of Business Growth, where he acted as a business-building coach for franchisees throughout the Ontario Atlantic region. He has helped with multiple mergers and acquisitions and established a growth-first culture focused on goal setting, accountability, and support. He brings a fresh perspective to the industry, along with a robust set of skills and experience in franchising, real estate, operations, and finance. This week on the show, I am joined by RE/MAX Integra's Regional Director for Ontario, Atlantic Canada, Mr. John Dowbiggin. John, welcome to the Mindshare Podcast.
David, you're too kind. Thank you so much for that intro. And right back at you. First, David, let me thank you for all that you do for our industry. And you are such an extremely valuable resource and advocate for professionalism and growth in the real estate industry, and the role that you play connecting us together, bringing attention to the issues in our business is invaluable. So it's greatly appreciated by myself and the rest of the RE/MAX network, and it's my pleasure to be here today with you.
Those words mean a lot, and I thank you for making the time and for everything that you and the company is doing as well. It's just an honor to have you here today, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. I know, never mind, I know through the past conversations you and I have had, not on air, there's a lot of value here, and actually that's what we want to dig into. You know, as you know, the show is all about helping our audience build a lot of mind share, and that's one of my big MOs on a regular basis, of constantly pushing everybody, beyond that comfort level, beyond that place where just to kind of step out and focus on building relationships, right? Doing the important things that we need to be doing to grow our business, and recognize where the opportunities are and where they present themselves. And I mean, there's so many of those things that happen when you least suspect it. If I go back to where you and I met, it's go figure. I bring all this up because that's exactly how we met. I mean, it was I don't know about you, but the one and only in-person event I have done in the past 13 months, and go figure, we bump into each other. We start talking hockey, barely knowing who each other were. And I think it's been a match made in heaven ever since. But, it's well, I don't know, talking about hockey, I guess I should bring that one up and just get that off the table right now. Like, is this our year? What do you think, man? Are we going to be doing it this year? And would there be an asterisk if we did do it this year? And by the way, for everybody that's going, what's he talking about? Toronto Maple Leafs. I say we collectively, because I know everybody's deep down a Leafs fan. What's your thoughts, John? We're going to win the cup this year?
Yeah. Look, the answer when you ask any avid Leaf fan like myself is this year is always the year. So absolutely, this is the year. David, great point. I mean, we have a lot of similarities. I'm an avid sports fan, and it's talk about growth. Like, that's an organization that's gone through an incredible transformation in the last 5 years, right from the top to the bottom to top. So shout out to the Leafs and all the Leaf fans out there.
Now, is it an asterisk if we win, or when we win? Forgive me. Let me say when we win. Is there an asterisk, or is this a normal year? It's just a little bit of a shorter season.
No, I think we should get like a special, recognition because of how hard it's been, right? I mean, think about.
I like that.
Well, first of all, it's you're playing the same teams over and over again, so rivalries are probably more intense. You're not able to see your families, not really able to interact socially. We're all human at the end of the day, whether you're a professional athlete or a realtor, and so that really does have a drag on your mental health, your physical health. So if anything, it's much harder to win in these circumstances.
Spoken like a true Leafs fan, eh? That was some good backup right there. He's got like everything to back it up. This is good. But no, okay, here, let's switch gears. Can you share some background?
Yeah.
Who is John? Just for anybody that may not be familiar with you and what you're doing, like who are you? Where did you come from in terms of sort of being in the role you're in today? What was the background there?
I was born and raised in New Brunswick. I've lived in Hamilton since I was 7 years old. Went back to the Maritimes to study finance at Acadia University, and I've worked at a couple different organizations. Some in the finance capacity. Prior to coming to Remax in 2018, I was working at Tim Hortons out of Restaurant Brands International, and really got used to working within a franchise organization, and how those are operated and ran. And I had an opportunity to work in the real estate department there alongside their franchisees. So really got to dive deep into the real estate industry. And so match made in heaven when I had the opportunity to join Remax and work with their franchisees inside the real estate industry.
So it's one of those where there's past experience in one role that you get to bring and sort of, leverage what you learned over there to bring it over here. But as you said, sort of that idea around franchises and growth, and much the same as you just brought up about the Leafs, just that growth of an organization and where's the vision and where are we going for, with respect to leadership. And I mean, as we titled today's show, all about, your vision to be the best. So let me ask you this then, you and I had a conversation just on the phone, probably about a month, 2 months ago now, whatever it was. But I mean, I had taken a ton of notes on that. And one of the things I think I'd either asked you at the time or wanted to kind of re-ask or ask for the first time today was, why John? Like, how did you come into this role? And I mean, based on the background you just mentioned, it makes a lot of sense. To that, though, I had even here kind of labeled off things that I remember we talked about around persistence and perseverance and commitment to vision. So I wonder if you could share more about that.
Those are some pretty big words, and I think those are necessary when you do want to achieve certain things. You need that persistence and perseverance and commitment to those goals and aspirations. And really that's fundamental to growth. And, like you mentioned, experience, yes, natural fit, lots of transferable skills. But from a personal standpoint, I think my dedication to the work that I do and that I want to do, I am a visionary leader. I do like to, really spend a lot of time thinking about what the future desired state is, and what's needed to achieve that vision. And ultimately at the end of the day, it's working with really great people, finding people that are, better than you, that can bring different perspectives, a diversity. So I think Remax presented that opportunity to me to work with, great people here already inside our organization at Integra, inside of our franchise organization. We have, over 200 franchise owners, hands down, some of the best out there. So really just a natural fit from that perspective as well.
We talk about commitment to vision, right? And we look at, again, these words of perseverance and persistence. And I mean, I believe that when you are persistent in stuff that you want, you will, and I posted this out the other day, but you will create your own luck. And there's often times where we sit around and we look and we say like, oh, they just keep landing that, or why them and why not me? And I think too that there's something to be said around, this idea around what is the vision that you've got. And when we look at vision and we start to look at, some of the real important parts about having that strong vision, it's important to take into consideration, what are your core values, or what are those core values around like your company, and what is everybody there really trying to grow? And then overall, what's the big purpose, right? Like, what are you trying to achieve? And when we think about that, I mean, those being two strong fundamentals to having this vision and this commitment to it, when you've got a vision though, and you're consistently working towards it, what about that change, that idea that like, hey, we've got to move with the times a little bit. And if we look at where we're at right now and think about, 14 months ago, nobody even saw, this whole thing coming. And then you think, we had these plans, but we've gone through these major changes lately. Now what, right? Now where are we going with that? Does the vision adjust, or is it, when we talk about persistence, is like, no, persevere no matter what, stay focused on that? What's your thoughts there? Because I know there's a lot of people asking those questions right now, looking around going, oh, I'm scared I'm not going to hit my goals, or I'm not getting closer to, where I want to be, or, oh my God, I can't go in and do door knocking and open houses, so my business is up in flux. It changes their.
Yeah, I think the last point I'll just build off of there is like, it all comes down to having a positive frame of mind. You need to, that's critical to everything that you just mentioned, because you need that positive frame of mind to persevere and persist, and ultimately come out ahead. And for us, our vision is and has always been the home of the top producer.
Yeah.
And our industry is not unlike a lot of others, but I think we are definitely a lot more human than most. And so in that human environment, the expectations are elevated, and there is this constant pursuit of excellence in our industry. And I think the whole thing around change is that you can't shy away. What excellence is today, it could be something different tomorrow. And so it's not necessarily about changing for change's sakes. It's about, can we deliver a better product or service tomorrow than we did today? And so I think if we do that, then we've achieved our mission of being the home of the top producer, because they expect excellence, and we're not afraid to try to give that to them on a daily basis, and provide whatever they need.
And I know when we were talking, and I mean, to extend on this whole thing of vision, I actually want to ask you more about that. Can we dive deeper into sort of like, what's the vision to push this brand forward in terms of RE/MAX? Where are you guys going? And you just mentioned sort of what that end goal is. What's the steps that we're taking? I mean, I know when we spoke, you said to me, I'm not a marketing guy. I'm very much a finance guy, but I'm not numbers driven, which I found very unique, because it's like, what is that motivation? What is that driving factor behind it? And, what are some of these things we're going to do, or what is that bigger vision, I guess, home of the top producer? How do we take those steps and kind of bring that to life?
Yeah, it's kind of conundrum, right? Like, I'm a finance guy, but I'm not numbers driven. I don't just, look at a piece of paper and manage by the numbers. So, what does it really mean? Humans and people create the numbers that we see on paper. We have to remember that. So although, the data can be very insightful, you have to drill down another layer and understand what actions are causing those numbers to be created. And so that's kind of the approach that I have personally in the work. And so if you understand those actions and you understand the people taking those actions, then you can actually, respond and coach and learn from all of those things that are going on underneath of those numbers. So really, we want incredible people. We want incredible agents. We want incredible broker owners. We want incredible staff here at Integra. We're very fortunate to have some of the best in the industry right now, and we're always on the lookout for more.
And what's the plan to that? I mean, when we say we're on the lookout and we talk about, and I mean, again, I talk often about this thing called mindshare, right? Remax obviously has the mindshare, and that's on a global scale. That's not just regional or in one part of the world, but I mean, globally, Remax has that. So to sit back or to be able to approach somebody and say, look, this is the company I'm with, it goes without saying who you are, what you do, and what your stature is in this industry. I mean, that's already been sort of a foregone conclusion. Now you look and say, you know, what are some of these things that we want to do to attract those people? How do we make this the place where they want to be? And again, showing them that we're going to help them be the best. I guess, what are some of these things that we're telling people about the brand or why they want to be here or how we're going to support them?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. That recognition piece is still just as critical as it's ever been in the industry. And, you know, when you ask people about real estate or ask them to name a real estate company, 95.8% say Remax, you know, unaided. So we are at the top echelon of that, you know, first to mind kind of recognition, trust, and that recognition leads to trust. And I think we are the most trusted brand as well in real estate. But what's to come, right? And how do you deepen the experience that those consumers have? And one of the most critical things is how, you know, the next generation is interacting with brands. They recognize, they trust, but they want to like the brand that they work with. They want the brand to feel like a natural extension of who they are as a person. So the values of the brand and the company have to align with that individual. So you take brands like Patagonia, Nike, Chipotle. They have a purpose beyond the product or service that they sell, and they make it known and they stand by it. And they are rewarded by their customers because they become this likable brand that feels natural to extend into, and that's the vision that we have to take this brand into the future. We have a couple campaigns that we've been working on, most notably the Treat Accessibly program, which we could spend a whole hour talking about that, but I do recommend you look it up, and it's just a fabulous campaign that
say it one more time for everybody.
The Treat Accessibly campaign.
Treat Accessibly. Okay, cool. Yeah, just to make sure people check it out if they're interested.
It's essentially, we want to make Halloween accessible for all children in Canada, and right now that's not the case. So, how do we leverage, our recognition, our trust, and bring awareness to something that's really important and critical in our communities? And I think that's a huge opportunity for us as a real estate company is working on those community initiatives and bringing that mass, set of eyes to these issues. So we're super excited about becoming this more likable brand and a natural extension of who people think they are.
Tell me more about that. I love that right there. The whole idea of the likability. And I want to hit home on something right now for everybody tuned in. Pay attention to that one. You've got this big, huge, well-known brand that's out there that's going, we do real estate, yet we're going to embark on this initiative that has to do with, and I'm not downplaying this, John, has to do with candy, has to do with children. And when you look at that, some people might go, what? But then you think to yourself, again, we're building a brand out here. We're trying to connect with people on a very, and you just said, like on a human level. And as we talk about, and this is where I want everybody to really internalize your content strategies and what you're doing out there to connect with others, because, and John, I'll share this with you, over the years through a lot of the training programs that we do, we've asked the questions often, what do you love doing to get business? What do you hate doing to get business? What really works to get business? And so often we hear from people that they hate giving away free value. They hate hosting seminars, yet they love networking with friends and family. They love talking about the industry. And you go, it's kind of the same thing. But people don't believe that if it's directly income producing, that it's somewhere they should be focusing their time. And in this case, well, again, the way you've just painted that is, look, Yes, we're a real estate company, but what we're going to do is we're going to try to really connect with the human being. And we're going to start almost from what you call the ground floor, being the kids, and then work them up as they get older. I mean, man, imagine, like, I just got this in my head, but imagine like 15 years from now, I'm like, oh my God, they made sure that I could have candy and I could go do Halloween. Jokes aside, that's a big deal. These are the little things that resonate in people's minds and create, again, that vision, that brand, that connection point to something, somebody. So I think it's a cool initiative there. Um, when we last chatted as well, you talked about, you're all about growth, right? And this being, the biggest personal pillar of yours in life. Um, what do you feel is the path towards growth? Like, be it for a brand, be it more specifically to our audience of let's say, homeowners, or people that want to get into the market, for an individual agent, if you were talking to them, or even a team of people. Like, I'm going to say it comes down to habits. It comes down to I mean, we're all creatures of habit. We make millions of choices every single day, but are we making the right choices? Or are we making the wrong choices? So again, what do you feel is that path towards growth for just any one individual, or maybe if they're trying to grow their business? Does that make sense?
Let's first start by, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
And this is something that I think about a lot, and what it means to grow. What is growth? Um, how do we measure it? What does it feel like? And I don't have all the answers. This is my perspective on it, but I don't think you can pin down too much here. I think that's important to know. But the first thing that I definitely know is that growth is an everyday activity. It's an everyday activity. And the weird part about it, David, is that you don't see it happen every day. So let me give you an example, right? You sit in a park and you watch a tree. You just watch the one tree for the entire day. You won't be able to tell that it grew, but it did. Okay. And you could sit in that same spot for a year straight and watch the same tree for a year. You probably still won't see it grow. It's a really hard thing to see on a very short time period. And in the modern world, our time horizon is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. You can tell by the way that advertisers use mediums, quick 3-second ads on YouTube, or when you're scrolling your feed on Instagram. They're realizing that they have to get quicker and more efficient in order to grab our attention. So, our expectation of growth is probably that we feel it and we see it every day, but that's not the reality. Okay. And, that's super important to, I think, note right off the bat. And this presents a problem, and it's kind of a way that we're wired. So the problem it presents is around delayed gratification. And most of us, are not hardwired to delay our gratification, just as human beings. And on top of that, the environment that we're nurtured in has to reward us for doing so. So we want to grow, but it's something we won't get right away. We won't be able to touch or feel right away. So we have to kind of wait, and we have to kind of trust that this growth is happening and that it will reward us later on. So, back to the question about what the path looks like, because I think I wanted to just make those notes, but the path, if the path looked like a suspension bridge, okay, then the positive frame of mind would be the ropes holding it all together. You need that positive frame of mind every single day. You need to believe that you're growing. And then the habits that you mentioned are kind of the planks that we walk across. So together, we're kind of, that's kind of how I envision that path to growth. So stop there if you want to comment, but I can talk about habits because those are interesting too. But
so share more with us. And just before
sound,
you do, no, I think this is important stuff, because again, when you talk about the vision, right, and we look, and I mean, I was chuckling when you brought up the tree and you said sitting in a park. I don't know if you saw, like, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, put up a post very similar to that, around exactly that. In order to grow our business up, we need to go wide and deep, right? And it's the same thing with a tree. Just to back that right up, you're sitting in the park, you're watching the tree, you're never going to see it grow, but we know it is growing every second we sit there and watch it. We're just never going to see it because it's so slow and methodical. And then underneath the ground, what do we got? We got roots that are growing and they're finding more food and they're finding more water and they're getting bigger. We never see them. So there's so much going on beneath the surface that we never actually see, that as long as we're consistent and we put in the effort every single day, then into the right things, then we can start to achieve that growth. And I will say, and I please share about the habits, because I'm very much about helping people create habits, but the right habits, and much the same, what causes a habit. I mean, when we look at the three pillars of a habit, it's that trigger. Why do we do it? What causes us to do it? It's the action. What are we doing? And it's the reward. What do we get out of doing it? And this is where, again, why people have these really good habits that helps them succeed. And then why some people have some very bad habits that are so hard to get out of, because, well, there's the trigger, the action, the reward, and they've never figured out how to adjust that. So, yeah, tell us more about that.
Yeah. And so, we are creatures of habit, like you said, and, whether we know it or not, we make millions of choices every day. And so step number one is that just to realize that you have a million choices to make every day when you get out of bed. So that's pretty empowering right there, that, each day you're presented with a million opportunities. Statistically speaking, that's pretty significant. So once we realize that we have these choices to make, I believe that we can influence our actions just by acknowledging that we have a choice. And so if we make enough of one action, we will form a new habit. We have to make the same choice over and over, repeatably, over and over, and then a habit will form, right? And forming new habits will lead us towards a different future state, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah. We
don't really know. And back to my point, I mean, there's got to be a reward, but we don't know. We have to trust that it's going to be there. So we have to be okay with not feeling that reward today. We can reward ourselves through positive frame of mind and say, I made the choices today. I feel like I did a good job. I'm going to get up and do it all again. I think that's about all we can do on a daily basis in reality.
Is to make those proper choices.
I think if we just to like realize that we made choices, because if we knew what the right choice was, we would all pick the stock that went up 10 times in price overnight, right? So we don't know. I think that's important to just kind of put out there, that we don't really know if we're making the right choice or the wrong choice. But the positive thing is that we had a choice. We made a choice. So I think that's where that power lies, is that that you made the choice. And if you know where you want to go and you're making choices, you're probably going to steer yourself there. That's kind of how I approach this whole thing. I don't think there's this detailed roadmap that's 100% drawn out. I think, you got to think about where you want to go and just empower yourself with the fact that you're making a choice. Millions of them.
It's interesting. I say that to the kids all the time, my children. Something will happen and I'll say, look, it could be that, Joshua did something to his sister Leah, and I turn to him and I, sort of reprimand him for a minute, and he either gets upset or he, kind of goes away, or he tries to battle it. And depending on the choice, I'll say, like, you've got a choice. How do you want to deal with that? It could be that, they're out playing sports and something happens. And again, you might get upset or not get upset or whatever. You have a choice. How do you want to deal with that? And there's so often times that, people look around and they go, well, I didn't have a choice. That's just the way I felt. Well, no, you had a choice, right? And it's a very similar thing that we say, like, we win or we learn, we never lose, right? So you've got a choice of what you're going to take away from that situation, what you're going to take away from that moment, and how you're going to use it to make yourself better. And through these are our learning moments. And I would also say in the same breath too, for anybody that's ever screwed up, ever given up, ever made a bad choice about anything, look at it as an opportunity to learn, as an opportunity to take something from it and say, how do I better myself for the next time around? I would say that that's where the power of choice comes from, right?
If you're not failing, David, you're not trying to innovate enough.
Well, here you said we've got we're presented with a million options every day or a million choices every day. To think that we're going to win them all or even get close to winning them all, geez, man, I think we fail more times than we win. But those are all, every single one of them, incredible learning opportunities to say, okay, I know what I did or what I didn't do, and I know what I can do to be better. And that's the perseverance, that's the persistence that we brought up a few minutes ago. Is okay, that's cool. You got me, or I got me, or I didn't make the right call, but let's keep pushing here. You had said that you're a person who's never satisfied, and that you always want more. Tell us more about this. I mean, specifically, like, why is it so important to constantly strive to do better? What steps can we actually take towards to working towards being better? But at the same time, too, how do you make sure that, again, you're making the right choices to say, look, I'm going to enjoy the stuff that happened that was good, but I'm not going to look at it as, hey, like that's the be all and end all. I want to strive to keep doing more. Because there's some people that are just real happy. Like they get to where they want it to be and they're like, this is good. I'm just going to coast. What's your thoughts on that? And again, what's your whole thing about, what can we do to work towards being better in any aspect?
Well, I think part of it is it's hard to capture in a bottle, but part of it is the entrepreneurial spirit. You just, I don't have a solid answer as to whether you're hardwired or not, but there's just something, that you want to do for yourself or for others. And it means that much to you. It just, you care so much about something that you just won't stop until you get there. And that's really just how it feels. I don't think there's any magic, formula that you need to follow I think it just comes down to really how much you care about something. And if you care that much, you're going to keep trying until you make it happen.
Look, that's a big one when I talk about the power of reciprocity, right? And we've heard it many times before in life, but give and you shall receive. And I think that if people get out there every day and think, how can I go out there and how can I help more people? How can I do better? How can I, look at what I did yesterday? I mean, look, getting up every day to try to help more people, having that mindset, having the mindset that, every day you're going to really track your actions from the day before and ask yourself, what can I do today that might be giving just a little bit more? If my mindset was off yesterday, what is something that I can do today to maybe be in a better frame of mind? I mean, I'm with you. I don't think there is no exact science or exact answer to it. I think a lot of it comes down to drive and determination. Again, having that vision, as we talked about, of where you're going, and in the face of anything, making sure you push through to get there. Now, talking
Well said.
talking market and looking at this this very quiet market that we're in right now. It is busy out there, it's crazy, it's busy. But one thing that we're seeing is a lot of people that are placing a lot of blame on themselves. And they're looking at themselves thinking that something's wrong with them. Maybe they're not doing enough, or maybe they don't have all the right answers, or maybe they're not with the right company, or they're not with the right team or the right actual office location. And we start looking outside to go, like, what are the problems out there? And first thing I want to say is I want to reassure everybody that's tuned in right now, like, if you are struggling, if you are having a tough time right now, please know you are not alone. I think our entire industry is having a tough time. And hey, in the same breath, I'll say we know a lot of people that have had their best years ever. But I don't think that there's anything right now that is necessarily, and not that we want this, but necessarily easy about the business right now. There's a lot of running. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of unknown. We're dealing with a market that, is seeing prices that are, just wild. What do you recommend, or even for yourself, when you're having a down day, maybe not, feeling under the weather? I mean, heck, the sun hasn't been out for days, like whatever it is. How do you stay in the right frame of mind no matter what's going on out there. And what words of advice would you give to anybody on that sense?
I think you already kind of said it. What I prescribe myself to is that there's another new day tomorrow, right? I'm not writing off today, but like it's going to end, and then you have another opportunity, right? You have another choice to make at some point. Like if you're feeling down right now, if you're feeling like you're not making the traction that you want, it's back to that whole thing that we talked about earlier, is that it's going to take time. It's going to take making those same choices over and over again. And if someone's not having the kind of success they want right now, they're not going to be able to fix it overnight. It's because the market doesn't help, but the people that are having success have been doing the right thing for many months. And it's all culminating. And if they can continue doing the right things constantly, then they're going to have the same success over time. They're not running up the mountain and running down the mountain. They're trying to climb it steadily, right? So I think it's a matter of perspective and timing. A lot of the time that we fault ourselves because our expectations are so high. Again, back to that YouTube 3-second ad. We think everything should happen in a flash, and that's not how it works, especially in this business. This is an industry where people spend 25, 30, 40 years building their career and building their database and building their own company. So that's the mindset that you need to overcome that fear. If you're failing, that fear, remember, this is a long-term game, right? And you're going to need to take a lot of the same actions over and over again through time. So
speaking of time and speaking of the long-term game and looking at the numbers that we know in this industry are unfortunately not where we'd all like to see them, or where anybody in the industry would like to see them when it comes to repeat and referral business. And when I say they're not where we want to see them, we know 70 to 90% of most agents' business will come from repeat referral. However, we also know that studies have told us that 76% of homeowners don't even remember the realtor they dealt with. How important would you say to everybody database is, and sort of that consistency of the approach to the database? And I mean, here, I'll even take it to, the big brand now and talk about the importance of threshold introduction and leveraging all of that together. And I'm going to I'll throw in Laura Monroe from Inman was on my show last week. And we talked about, going deep and wide with the network. And we talked about a lot of the growth of this industry is looking at the agents and then looking at the agent's book of business. And I mean, you brought up database, and it's such a near and dear topic to my heart, because I look and say, like, if you're in this business and you want to grow, I mean, our friend Sandra Kirkland's watching right now and made a comment about farming diligently for 3 months and haven't closed a deal. Should I quit? She knows the answer to that. She's making a comment about other agents she talks to, but perseverance does pay off. It's a very similar thing, right? Is having that fortitude to sort of keep going with things and really understand what's happening out there.
Yeah, I think it's the most important part. Database is the most important part of an agent's business. It has been, and it will continue to be. Just, I know that we were talking about, what's coming in the future. What's gonna, I forget how you phrased it, but what's going to happen to the industry, right? And what's going to be the most important thing? And I'll tell you, the most important thing is data. I mean, that's for the future. We hear about all these property technology companies trying to utilize data, trying to automate our industry, trying to remove realtors from the process. But people are using realtors at a record amount. And so until these companies can robot to empathize with humans, then realtors will always have a place. And so, that database, that farming, that makes you more human if you focus on, that farm, that the people actually know who you are. They know what you stand for. Your values and their values, your values are an extension of theirs, right? So that's how it relates to that an individual agent's business. It's not about what color, it's not about how you brand yourself on social media as much. It's not about what color your sign is, pink, blue, yellow, stand out. Like, it's about being human and having your values naturally extend out into your database, and having them like you, and think of you in that way. So it's kind of interesting that, data, we're talking about database, but data is also something that in the next 5 years, it's a huge emerging trend now, and it will continue to be. And data will allow us to, and the consumers, access to data. I think it'll be easier for the consumer to know who's really good and who's not so good. It'll become way more as data becomes more available and easier to understand. So the fact that realtors control a lot of that data in their own database, it gives them a lot of power. So I encourage them to focus on that. And to your point, the realtor referral piece, an alarming amount of realtors do not ask for referrals. So there's one thing that they can do today is go through their database and ask for referrals.
Look,
Call up, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, we know. I mean, we know that this industry is built off of repeat referral. We just don't do a good enough job. So with doing a not so good job, we've been able to build this industry, so-called, off of repeat and referral. Imagine what happens to your business, and not you specifically, John, but everybody tuned in. Imagine what happens to your business when you begin to work that database to the level where you should be working that database. Look what happens to your business. Look what happens to the competition around you. Look what happens to the vision that you have and how you start to get closer to actually achieving it. Because as we just said, you've got the data, you own the data, the relationship, because you control it, you put it in there. Now it's really own the relationship. I mean, I was asked a question years ago about how does a realtor remain relevant right now? And this was a few years back, but I really haven't changed my tune on this. It's not about joining, getting on Reels and TikTok and Clubhouse. And I mean, they're all pieces of it, right? But the bigger thing to remain relevant is really, have you got that one-to-one connection with somebody where you can connect with them through a text message, send them a DM without having to introduce yourself all the time and do the formalities of, hey, hope all is well. You can just do the quick one-liners. When you've got that, you've built relationships. You've now got the opportunity at longevity. And again, when we talk about where success comes from, it's a natural path towards success, is working that data, having the consistency behind it. Now, looking at the industry and looking at, again, the landscape of what's going on out there right now, it really feels like the Wild West. There are so many people that are kind of doing what they want, how they want. And I know there's a lot of folks and certain ones that are tuned in that are cringing at some of the Wild West stuff that goes out there. But we talk about, rules and regulations and standards of the way things should be done as professionals. But, sometimes it feels like people are simply just doing whatever they want in the best interest of themselves without even taking into consideration this thing of, fiduciary duty. And I just thought I'd bring that up for a moment here and just see, what are your thoughts around the professionalism in the industry? I will say this too, is that the other day we did a poll, and we put out there, I don't remember exactly how we worded it, but what are some of your biggest struggles or pain points or challenges? And an alarming rate of people came back and talked about the dishonesty in this business and the lack of respect. And funny enough, and Sandra, bringing you up for a second time now, a couple of years ago, I'd put a post out saying something about, what bothers you the most about other realtors. She then piggybacked on that 2 weeks later, going what do you like most about other realtors? And it was amazing because we went, lack of communication, lack of respect was what most people hate. And it goes without saying. But what's your thoughts around professionalism, in the industry? How can we be better all around? What message would you, or do you want to deliver to everybody in that regard?
We bring up a great, conversation piece. It's multifaceted. I think the media really loves this story as well. It sells a lot. So I don't know if it's overblown. I don't know if we have any sort of actual statistics on, experiences other than the complaints that are filed, and does everyone file a complaint? So just a preface, but I think what's important to understand is that yes, we always want to, continue to increase the professionalism in our industry. It's in our DNA, it's in our blood, a full-time agent dedicated to their profession, investing in, things for the long term, time, effort, resource, they're thinking 20, 30, 40 years. I think that kind of defines it. And I think a lot of, the industry, and especially our brand, is the entrepreneurial spirit. So we have to make sure that we're not crossing that line and tampering that and removing that spirit, because it really is important. But obviously, right now we have a huge influx of new registrants coming into the business due to the disruption caused by the pandemic. And so it's a huge opportunity to ensure that those standards that we expect as the leaders in the industry are taught, are followed, and that are strong enough, and that they learn it from the very beginning, so that those bad habits don't set in. Maybe there is some sort of transaction count per year that is imposed, because you just see people come and go as they please, and that's unique to our industry. So I think that's the problem, and definitely we want to be careful to increase professionalism but maintain entrepreneurial spirit.
Which kind of takes me naturally into this next question around low inventory, lots of buyers, prices being absolutely through the roof. I had a personal friend of mine who there was a property listed and they offered $400,000 over and lost. And I went, how does that even happen? And the first part of the how does that, like, how do you even offer 400 over? Where did the bank or the mortgage broker even give you an extra 400 based on the pre-qual? But that part made no sense. Fast forward, they then went, crazily enough, they went out and there was a house that was listed at 1.3. They offered another 400 over. They got it for 1.7. And I believe that it probably should have been a 1.1 rather than a 1.3. So you kind of look and just say, like, prices are wild. And we're certainly at a high point of the price point in terms of what houses are going for. But I got to ask the question, John, if you've got the answer, you're the first guy to have it, but I'm going to ask it either way. Where are people getting all of this extra money so that they can go that far over asking? Like, what guidance can we provide to people right now around even what they're doing to price houses? What price point are they listing at? We're seeing some crazy stuff out there. Just thought if you got
I wrote a piece. I wrote a piece for Stories on how realtors are pricing their properties, and I recommend you check that out.
Where is it again? Say it again.
Stories.com. It's about pricing strategies that are being employed, and I think a very hot topic right now is underpricing to attract more offers, and we're seeing more and more stories published. I believe it was one of the first, but I think it's important that we uphold that standard, and especially in a time of a pandemic, should we really be encouraging, people who cannot afford a property to go and see it. Also that, disengages a lot of the buyers and consumers. It confuses them. So, again, fine line. Realtors have a duty to get the best price possible for their clients for that listing. But also, is it damaging the industry in the long run? So I think the jury's out, but it's an interesting point. Where people are getting the money from is kind of twofold. Canadians have over 100 billion in savings right now, and we've been saving at a rate of about 20 times the rate that we saw in 2019. So we have a lot more cash. Combine that with very cheap debt, and there's your money. It's kind of a plus on both sides of the equation, right? So you can afford to go higher because you don't need as much down, you have more cash, and borrowing is cheaper. So it's kind of the perfect fodder for a fire, all of those things coming together. But, additionally, David, and this is, a more somber point, but we tend in our industry, we tend to isolate ourselves as the real estate industry, and we stick within it. But I think it's important that we remember that there's a lot more going on outside of our industry in the world and in the greater economy. And everything is much more connected than it appears. So the pandemic has had devastating effects on income inequality. And the costs of the pandemic are being, they're being borne by the poor segments of society. And low income populations are obviously more exposed to the pandemic in their workplace, more likely to have job losses. But the opposite is true for the other income populations, right? We're saving more, we have more money. So, based on this, I think, we need policies in place to promote affordability and supply instead of policies directed at slowing demand. And right now we have record demand. We have, the numbers don't lie. There is way more demand in the market. The supply is still low. It's always been low. And so we need different thinking around what policies are needed to help people afford homes and help our industry help those people find homes that they can buy and live in and have the dream that they want.
So, looking at that then, as we kind of look ahead and we think about technology and we think about people and we think about technology versus people, as we look at the landscape over the next 12 months or maybe we look at the landscape that have happened over the past 12 months and kind of look ahead over the next 5 years and just kind of go, not that we all have a crystal ball, but what do we see? Where do we think we're going? We've looked at, hey man, we've looked at the virtual world of real estate has been a thing over the past 12 months. And again, luckily we've been deemed an essential service, which is amazing because people have been able to keep going. Much the same, people are looking at different options and looking for different answers. And, do we see, I guess, what changes do we see? Do we see bricks and mortar being just as important as it ever was as soon as we get back to this thing of like being able to like break free of everybody's kind of lockdown over here? What just maybe emerging trends or something to keep our eyes open for, maybe something that you specifically are kind of looking out for?
Definitely. I have some pretty good insight here. The last 6 months, we've seen within our network more expansions of the physical space than we have in prior years. And the feedback that we're getting is that realtors really miss the physical connection. And David and all the viewers, I think we're all the same way. It's like, are we really hoping to have another Zoom family Christmas this year? Not me personally.
That's a great point.
So I think, back to the whole nature of our industry being human, more human than most. It's really important, and the office provides that space. So is it more flexible workspace? Probably. But again, I was speaking with some of our franchise owners, and they're expanding more private offices because people really want that. They want that level of professionalism. And, I think if anything, the pandemic may have level set a couple expectations around the physical space. So, working from home, you may not have an office. You're stuck at the kitchen table. You're perched on a couch or whatever. Your kids are running around. It's going to cost you $50,000 to $100,000 to add an addition or get out into the marketplace and buy more space, which, like you're saying, the prices are high. So what's the cost of an office compared to that? What's the cost of an office rental compared to that? So I think it's level set the industry. I think it's been good for people to understand that there is value in that offering. And we're seeing, a lot of people want that and prepare for that. So it's encouraging. And even some of the virtuals, they have office space too, right? And I know for a fact that some of them have just, spent millions buying, renovating, opening physical office space, but, working for a virtual brokerage. So, it's kind of contradictory. And I think that there will always be a place for that communal meeting hub.
I would double down on that one with you and say that you think about the people, like, I mean, all of us, right? Like, we all miss getting out to the conferences and going to see people. And I mean, look, we are in a business, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, or you got a mix of both within you. You know, we really are an extroverted type of group, right? Where it is all about dealing with other people. Even if you like to be at home, you got to get out with other people. And the fact of the matter remains that, you know, prior to COVID, there was so much of the going to conferences, going to meet with clients, being at the office, doing the quote unquote water cooler conversation. There's a lot of fun, a lot of excitement and hype around that. And call it either not friendly or very friendly competition where you roll in and I kind of see John. I'm like, ah, John, I know I'm battling John out there. Look at me. I got lots going on. Now I'm able to kind of, you know, stand a little taller, keep my head, my chin a little higher because I'm going, I got to make sure that nobody sees that maybe I'm not having a good day or whatever because we're surrounded by that. I also believe that again, as we come back out of this, there's going to be that desire to want to break free of where we're at and get back out to the buzz of the office and the conferences and the you know the with people. So I think we are in a moment in time right now where there's a lot of unknown, but you bring a good point. I also think that through this past 13, 14 months of doing what we're doing, there's been a lot of learning that's happened. And part of that learning is, oh my God, how much I miss people and I cannot wait to get back over there. So the importance of the bricks and mortar. So looking at that then, and then going, you know, face technology and what we're going on and what's going on in the marketplace. Um, take a few moments here. Just what is Remax doing, maybe from a high level, to help our agents, you know, succeed even more out there?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to the the next layer to the brand, and that's really our responsibility to our customers, and how can the brand attract more customers to them, and what tools, resources, technology. I mean, we can talk a whole nother hour on specifics on that, but a high level, it's back to that likability. We want consumers to like us, to know our values, and connect with our values, and we want to we're the leader for our 12,000 plus agents, our 200 plus franchise owners, and we want them to take the same steps in their communities around the likability and how that brand interacts with people.
Okay, so then let's do something actionable here in terms of our audience. What can any agent right now do to assist the brand in delivering that message? So if you could say to the agents that, you know, your agents, and go, look, guys, you know, troops, let's rally. Here's what we should all be doing, and if we all individually do this, collectively we should achieve that. What would that message be, John?
It's embrace the recognition first and foremost of the Remax brand, and the trust that that brings along. Embrace those materials, because together, if we all use the same materials, we appear much stronger. So that's number one. Number two is get out in your communities and work that database, and let people know who you are, truly, like, deeply. Let them know what you value, what you stand for. I know that could be encouraging some some things to go off the rails, but I believe that I believe that there is a lot of good out there that is being done, and to embrace that. You can't be a secret agent. You gotta, if you want business, you gotta be out there. You gotta let people know who you are, and especially as you're appealing to different demographics now that are looking for that from all brands, from all services that they interact with. So, be a little bit more vulnerable, and just open up to those people that you want to do business with. I think that's the key going forward.
Cool. No, I like that. So I've got to. I want to roll into as I'm watching the clock here. Um, One of my favorite questions, and it's something that I've been asking for some time, and I love listening to the variety of answers. Yet there's always a similar tone to everybody's answer, and so I'm no pressure, but I'm curious as to where you're going to go with it. Um, how do you know it's been a successful day for you?
Well, you don't ever know, like we talked about. You don't ever really truly know if it was a success or not. I mean, maybe for you, because like a bunch of people could go and, on your iTunes and give you a 5-star or a 1-star right now. And
By the way, that's a
you get
great
instant
point,
feedback.
John. That is a great point. Did everybody hear what John said to do? Go give me a 5. No, sorry.
I knew you were going to take that one, but unless you have a source of like instant feedback, which is like pretty hard to do unless you're like in this transactional thing and people are encouraged to do and give you feedback, which it's all possible, but from like a higher level, you don't really know, but you have to believe that every day was.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm
like, yeah, if you believe that every day was, then you're in a good positive state of mind. You're going to get up and you're going to do it again and try again tomorrow. And it's okay to fail. Like if it was a failure and if something bad comes a week later because of what you did, it's okay. Just keep getting up the next day and trying again. That's probably where most people went, but maybe they didn't go to the know about it.
You know what it is?
Definitely.
I guess where I go, and I probably set too much pressure on the stage there when I asked that question. But one of the things one thing that we never ever hear about is how much money somebody made. And that's really the kicker to it all, is that nobody ever sits back and goes, well, did I do a deal today or not? Did I make money today or not? Everybody really talks about, again, the effort that you put in. The dedication to, what is that vision that you're trying to achieve? Did I help other people? And I guess the biggest finding from me, having asked that question so many times, and for, the amount of books I read and the amount of learning that I do on a daily basis, from some of the, the top most successful people in our world, nobody's ever used the thing of, well, I made money or I closed the deal. It never really equates back to the transaction. It is so much more about a deeper meeting in terms of what they're trying to achieve personally. So it's interesting where I'm sort of compiling all this and trying to learn from leaders like yourself and others and just kind of bring it back to everybody so everybody understands, because I think that that's an important one too, is that you don't know if it's been successful. And so oftentimes a lot of people gauge it. And so I'm going to give people an action item right now and say that when you track your day and you manage your time and you schedule accordingly, one way to figure out if you've won is to see, did I accomplish what I set out to do? And to me, having you on the show today is part of a win. Once we wrap the show today, it's a win. What did I already accomplish this morning and is done? I won. What's left on the day? How much effort am I going to put in to finish that as well? And at the end of the day, can I look back and say, you know what? I made that plan last night. I got up today. I put in all my effort. I did what I thought I could do. I did everything I possibly could do. Not everything went exactly how I wanted to, but on the overall, you know what? I won. And it goes back to positive mindset, which you brought up, of there's the importance of it, right? If you've got the right mindset, if you really set out to win the things you accomplish to do, you put in the right habits, you're persistent, you persevere no matter what, you'll have the success you're looking for. And then it will be a successful day. John, what last words or tips can you share, or anything that you want to share just as we kind of wrap this up today for everybody that's tuned in, and maybe something specific to, what can people do even to get out there and build some positive mind share for themselves?
Yeah. First and foremost, just remember that growth is uniquely personal. So don't, try to compare your growth to other people's growth. Set goals and a vision for yourself that you truly care about, that's unique to you. Do everything that we said today. And just remember that we're all human. Like, we all have flaws and we're all very emotional. And I think, to your point earlier, that emotion sometimes gets the better of people out there and leads to a lot of the problems that we think are in this business, and we're not alone. So, we're all working to provide for ourselves, our families. Everyone is much more connected than you think. So just have some patience, treat others fairly and with respect. The world will become better if you become better and help others become better. So I'll leave you with that. And thank you very much for the opportunity, and thanks to all the listeners.
Oh, absolutely. Those are some great words to leave off on. And thank you. And John, if anybody wants to either connect with you directly, or, maybe we want to direct people to some of the initiatives that Remax Integra is up to, where can people go to learn more and maybe connect with again, yourself or anybody at the organization?
Yeah, they can connect with me directly on Instagram, John Dowbiggin, my full name _Remax. Send me a DM there. Let's skip the the formalities of it all. Just tell me how you feel, what you need to know, and we'll get back to you. We want to make sure that we're connecting with you guys the way that you want to be connected with. So anytime, always open.
Awesome, man. John, thank you. It's been great conversation today. I know for the few times that we've rapped together, either on air or not, they're always fun convos. And I mean, again, you're a Leafs fan, so you're definitely my boy. But seriously, thank you for everything that you're bringing to the table, everything that you're doing at Remax, everything that Remax is doing for the industry. Thank you for the leadership, and keep up the great work. And of course, we're always here for you. If I can help you with anything else, reach out. But thanks again for the time today on the Mindshare podcast.
My pleasure, David. Go Leafs.
Yeah. You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you downloaded our free Industry Syndicate podcast app. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content counter to help you build mindshare so you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, just get in touch with me. We'll set up a free consultation call to learn more about what you're looking to achieve and how I will help you do just that. Also, don't forget our push to 100 is on, so be sure to please go to iTunes, subscribe to the show, rate us, and leave a review. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at DavidGreenspan101. I want to once again thank Virginia Munden and the Buzz Conference for sponsoring today's episode. Make sure you connect with the Buzz Conference by visiting their website, www.thebuzzconference.com, or by following them on Instagram at The Buzz Conference to keep tabs on all the awesome events they are always hosting, including 3 great ones coming up. I also want to thank Kits Keep in Touch Systems for also sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked this out yet, just go to my site, mindshare101.com, and click on Marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.